chopper to the left side. McMahon, Fields, whoa, what a quick release. The Cardinals are 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position today. The 2-2.
Want you.
High pop fly, and he backpedals to make the play. Cardinals have left 11 on base through 7.
Good evening and welcome to Sports Plus. I'm Corey Miller. Even in their worst season in recent and not so recent memory, the Cardinals are giving us plenty to talk about. So is City SC and Mizzou football. More on that later. We do start tonight with the series finale between the last place Cardinals and the last place Rockies. It was a finale that gave Colorado their first series win in St. Louis since Jordan Walker was in the second grade. And so for tonight's main event, we head on over to Busch Stadium. It was a bullpen game for the Cards today, so Zach Thompson got the start. He was pretty good. Here's his only blemish in 4 innings. Ezekiel Tovar gets a run in on a sac fly that comes in just a little bit late, and that's all the Rockies needed. Remember this guy on the mound? Former Cardinal Austin Gomber was superb today. 6 innings of shutout baseball from the former St. Louis lefty. He got Tyler O'Neill to ground out in a big-time bases-loaded jam in the 5th, and the Cards could not scratch anything across. 15 men left on base. Colorado shuts out the Cardinals 1-0. The first series win for the Rockies in St. Louis in 14 years, and the Cardinals go 3-7 on the homestand. Thompson's outing was a bright spot.
Pounded the bottom of the zone, 1 walk, 8 punch outs. Had the curveball working for him. The slider looked really good. Got a lot of swing and miss with that.
And this is the culmination of everything I learned from getting sent down, struggling down there, coming back, having some struggles out of the bullpen, and starting to put it together now.
That was impressive. Probably the best we've seen him. So very encouraging.
This season is uncharted territory for Cardinals fans. There are a lot of questions and a lot of blame to go around. Our Sports Plus guests this week are Ben Hockman and Ben Fredrickson from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. They joined me earlier today to help break down these strange times in Cardinal Nation.
If they don't make multiple additions, either free agency or trade, for multiple starting pitchers who can be more productive than what they've had this past season, then they weren't very serious about contending next year. And they're going to have to spend. They're going to have to spend wisely. They're going to have to make smart trades. They're going to have to do it all, and they're going to have to do it in a matter of an off season, or else they're going to be right back in this spot next year.
They're going to have to do something they haven't done in quite a while, and that's outbid other teams for a free agent. Whether it's Blake Snell, whether it's Aaron Nola. I know not everybody loves Lucas Giolito, but he's got a lot to offer. Whoever they identify, they got to win that fight. They got to win that battle, because you can't lose. You can't fall back and bring in some second-tier guy to be a top 3 pitcher in your rotation in 2024.
The outfield was a question that didn't really get a whole lot more clarity at the trade deadline. You still got 5 guys who they're going to seemingly rotate these last 2 months. How do you think that shakes out? One of these guys has got to be on the block come offseason.
Yeah, I wrote a column in the Post-Dispatch saying I thought they should have traded Dylan Carlson. Nice human, but I just don't think after 1,400 plate appearances, he's proven to be the prospect we thought he would be. So I say get something for Dylan Carlson.
I think Tyler O'Neill would have been traded before the deadline, and if you had asked me 2 weeks ago if he would have, I'd said yes 100%. They didn't feel like the value was there because he hadn't been healthy. So I think the end of this season is about trying to prove what he can do when he's healthy. We know Jordan Walker is going to be there. We know that they're okay with Tommy Edman playing center field if they want that. So if you're Carlson, if you're O'Neill, you know you're playing the rest of this season for perhaps your market in a trade. And if they do go back to those guys, I don't know how they go back to them as sure thing starters, because they tried that this year and it didn't work.
Is this season bad enough, do you think, to spur some kind of big action?
Well, I think when the Cardinals say all off season that this season's going to test the model, it's going to test the model, and we hear that phrase again and again, and the season's a unobjective failure, then the model failed. I mean, it won't always fail, but it has failed to this point, and they have a pitching crisis. They've admitted that. So the Cards are literally on the table. If they don't improve the pitching and make sure this is not going to be something that continues to lead a pretty productive offense off into the ditch, then they can't say that it's a surprise.
The way I look at it, like, this was the year they were supposed to take the next step in the postseason. They had kept falling short in early October every year. This was the year they were supposed to compete for the pennant, and now they're not even going to be 500.
There's still 2 months left, though. I want each of you to give me something to look forward to about the rest of this Cardinals season. We're all still going to watch. What should we be looking for?
Let's talk about Alec Burleson's exit velocity. When he gets a hold of one, it's fun to watch. And same for some of the other guys too, notably Nolan Gorman. But I'm excited about Alec Burleson. I never thought I'd be saying this as my exciting thing about the end of the year is Alec Burleson making contact, but this is where we're at.
I think Mason Wynn is coming. He's the Cardinals' top prospect now. We saw how he could invigorate a disappointing spring training. Remember, a lot of the stars were gone at the World Baseball Classic. It became the Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker show. I think there's a chance that it becomes the Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker show at the tail end of this season. What I love about Mason, he's gotten better every month he's been in Memphis. And then when they started talking about maybe promoting him, his production got that much better. He's the guy who plays well when the lights are on him. Get him here soon and let him remind folks that the future should be bright.
Coming up, we're talking City SC with the Bens and spotlighting the youngest star for our youngest team. 16-year-old homegrown Caden Glover is balancing algebra and professional soccer. We'll be right back.
Rapino, right foots it over the bar. Missed it. O'Hara off the post.
Before most of the country was awake, the U.S. women's national team was being eliminated from the Women's World Cup. Lena Hurtig ended it with a goal that had to be reviewed. Similar technology to what they use in tennis showed that the ball did indeed cross the goal line. It's the earliest the U.S. women's team has ever been eliminated. An MLS Next Pro record crowd of 9,489 saw a scoreless match late into the first half between City 2 and Salt Lake at City Park tonight. But then it's the SLU kid, Johnny Klein, knifing through to pop in the header, 1-0 City. He provides some more fireworks later. Still in the first half, it's the rehabbing first-teamer, Joachim Nielsen, diving to connect on a header. That one's in too. He's happy guy, it's 2-0. Second half, I told you Klein wasn't done. The ball deflects into the restricted area, and Klein is there for the point-blank shot and the goal. City 2 wins 4-0.
This 5 on Your Side St. Louis City SC coverage is sponsored by Together Credit Union.
The record crowd at today's City 2 match shouldn't be a surprise anymore. Our town is soccer crazy, and they have a team that's continuing to defy expectations. I chatted with our Sports Plus guests about the continued excellence of our West-leading City SC. Let's talk some soccer now. You guys have spent a lot of nights at Busch Stadium and also a lot of nights at City Park. Just explain the kind of difference in what that is right now.
Well, I joke that it's Freaky Friday, and the Cardinals and City have exchanged bodies because Cardinals are supposed to be great. They're in last place. City's the expansion team, and they're in first place. That's the only way to explain it. It's so exciting. It's so important for our city. And look, this team has the second lowest payroll in Major League Soccer, and they have the most points in the Western Conference well into the season. It's a bunch of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it speaks to two things. I think one, they have a culture, they have a plan, and they've stuck to it. The same things that people question them about. They don't have enough star power. They have a fluky system. Well, those things clearly weren't true.
What's maybe an on-the-field reason you've seen that they're in this position?
Well, they have a style of play that works, and it's not fun to play against. When we see the Cardinals play their best, they're not fun to play against. When we see the Blues play their best, they're not fun to play against. And I think Lutz Van Den Steel and his team, they thought, what's a style we can play that embodies that St. Louis toughness and that blue-collar attitude and approach? And then, on top of that, they went out and got the right guys to play it.
It's not apples to apples, but I think of the movie Miracle and the 1980 hockey team, where they didn't get the best players, but got the right players.
This team has already become part of the fabric of the community. How did that happen so fast? Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I just say I get excited about this. You have to tip your hat to their promotions. I mean, you look at their digital promotions, you look at the way they've embraced St. Louis soccer culture, St. Louis soccer history, and all the different communities. It's really a special melting pot that they're tapping into, and it's cool.
Everybody is excited, but what's a reasonable expectation you think these last couple months for soccer?
Yeah, win a championship. And why not? I mean, nobody thought they could make the playoffs, and they're going to set expansion team history to do that. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Do they have a depth that has been proven and that's going to get better as these healthy players get back? They needed this break that they have now. So now those guys who've been thrust forward into the spotlight can take a step back when the stars get back, but they're still, they have that courage that they built up. We saw the St. Louis Blues win a championship like that. They didn't have a true NHL star on that team. They had a bunch of depth and they believed, and I think this team has some of those qualities.
I don't want to go as far as Ben Fred did. I think they can win a playoff game. And heck, they're supposed to come in last to talk that they will even be in a playoff game, let alone win one. But I think they can do it for notable reasons that we talked about with the way they press. But also, you look at their defensive backs, and notably all-star Tim Parker, who's had a rejuvenated career in St. Louis. I mean, he is just a brick wall back there. And if it occasionally gets past him, you have another brick wall behind him, if you will, in Roman Berkey.
City SC's present is certainly exciting, and so is their future. I used this break for the big club to get to know one of their future stars. And Columbia, Illinois teenager Caden Glover has wasted no time in making a name for himself. Get to know the homegrown who could be a big future offensive piece for his hometown team in tonight's Spotlight Story. Much like the infant franchise he plays for, Columbia, Illinois striker Caden Glover is three things: young, exciting, and St. Louis through and through. Did you have a favorite St. Louis athlete growing up? Who's your guy?
I mean, I was a Blues fan. Tarasenko, we got traded, but yeah.
You are dating yourself. Tarasenko was your guy growing up, making me feel old over here. And yes, the first homegrown player City SC ever signed is that young. He just turned 16 in March and has 2 years left at Columbia High School.
I mean, it's kind of weird going from sitting in like algebra to a professional training soccer practice environment, but I mean, it's about to start back up, so I got used to it after a couple months, but it'll probably always be a little weird.
But on game nights, algebra can wait. Glover is rounding into the star striker the team had hoped for when they signed him to a 5-year deal.
Glover puts it home!
Thinking about the 16-year-old kid that he is. We had him in preseason in January and February before the season started with us, and we could see glimpses already there that he was hungry, he was tenacious.
So far this season, Glover has 4 goals for City 2 in the MLS Next Pro League. Became an all-star in that league, scoring a PK goal to help the West win.
And another touch from Abraham, but he cannot keep it out.
And even made it onto the field for the big club, making his debut against the Chicago Fire up at Soldier Field.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's been my dream since I was little, but seeing it all happen is still surreal, especially making my debut in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, running out on that Soldier Field, it's just something that I've always strived towards and it happening was just amazing.
Ever since St. Louis was awarded an expansion team, Glover has dreamed of being in this spot, and now he's making the most of it.
Yeah, so I like setting goals for myself, and as soon as I saw the team coming, that was always a goal that me and my dad kind of talked about, and once I was given the opportunity, I was obviously extremely excited, but yeah, it was something that I always dreamed of and strived towards for.
And yeah, being a 16-year-old professional athlete has made him pretty notable around Columbia. You can be honest here, are you like more popular than everybody now, or what's it like?
I mean, signing to a professional soccer team obviously helps, but yeah, I'd say I get recognized.
And if he keeps making strides like he has so far, that recognition will only continue to grow.
Against us or against our group, there's still ways to go, obviously, but those are things that he strives for. As a young individual, it's where he wants to get to. And we see a profile and a pathway.
It's obviously amazing this club trusted me to be their first homegrown, which I'll always be thankful for, but yeah, I hold this club dearly in my heart, and I want to give them all I got.
And celebrates with the boys.
All right, I'm going to say it. I thought the transfer window, I thought the portal was closed. Oh, that's just for the student athletes. The adults in the room get to do whatever they want, apparently.
Coach Drinkwitz made some news around the country with those thoughts on the current state of college sports. He's hoping the only news he makes during the season comes after Mizzou wins. I talked with our Sports Plus guest about the impending football season in Columbia, Missouri for this week's Sunday Conversation. Let's talk Mizzou football now, and I am at that point in the Mizzou cycle where I'm getting excited, but I remind myself, stop doing that because it's going to come tumbling back to earth. Is it as easy as if they find a quarterback who can be a playmaker, this team should be okay?
Yes and no. If they find an offensive line that can protect a quarterback, then any quarterback that starts will look better. whether it's Brady Cook or Sam Horn or Jake Garcia. Now, if they have a good offensive line, Corey, and a quarterback who can stretch the field like they couldn't last year, then I think all of a sudden the questions that we have about this offense could turn into exclamation points about this offense.
When you look at Brady Cook, who right now is the starting quarterback, there's a lot to like about his toughness, his mentality, his leadership. Coach Drinkwitz talks about it all the time. But can he throw the deep ball? Can he beat an SEC defense time and again with his arm? Well, they're going to need him to, obviously. And, of course, we know they have Luther Burden, but they have other wide receivers that are rising up. And this should be we had Don Coryell go in the Hall of Fame this weekend, the former St. Louis Cardinals coach. Air Coryell, they need an air game, but is it going to be Air Cook? Or if not, is it going to be Air Horn?
This is going to be Eli Drinkwitz's fourth season at Mizzou. 17-19 record. How big is this year for him?
I mean, as big can be, right? If he wins 7 or more, I think he's fine. But if he's at 6 or fewer, I think we're going to have to toast goodbye. We're going to drink one goodbye, if you will, to drink.
I think he knows that it's make or break time. He got the extension and the raise, but we know that in the SEC world, that doesn't exactly mean that you're going to be around for the end of it. I like how he's handling it. He's given me a hard time this offseason for bringing up some questions about his team, but his team is kind of adopting that we're going to go prove it on the field. And if they do, then there will be no more talk about Eli being on the hot seat. I think it's got to be a bowl game that Missouri fans feel excited about. I don't think Desiree Reed-Francois is like a win X amount of games or else kind of athletics director, but I think she wants to see the trajectory hit another level this year, or else she's going to say, okay, maybe I'll go out to hire my own coach. And I think the folks at Mizzou would say, well, she made a great basketball hire, so they might be more interested in seeing what she could come up with. And Eli knows this. Yeah. So it's on him to prove that, no, he's got this thing going. The recruiting is looking good, but it's got to show up on the field.
What's another camp storyline you're most interested in?
Well, I'm curious to see if this defense, which we touched on, can be the best in the SEC. If you're the best defense in the SEC, you're the best in the country. And with all the guys they brought back from the draft, they are one of the most potent on-paper defenses we're going to see in college football. There's really only one question. Can they get pressure off the ends? Can they get some guys to create havoc off the ends? They're strong up the middle. They got great linebackers. They got an awesome secondary.
Yeah, I'm obviously really excited to see Tyron Hopper. He reminds me of Nick Bolton. And if you're talking about Mizzou defensive players, that's probably the ultimate compliment. But I'm excited and also fascinated to see how Kirby Moore calls plays. Drink used to do that. You could argue that there was too much on his plate, so they bring in the young brain. Let's see what this kid's got.
Time now for the Victory Men's Health, Frankly Speaking. And a thought about Adam Wainwright. This is not how any of us wanted this year to go. The second greatest pitcher in Cardinals history has an ERA near 8 in his final season. It just stinks. From afar, I always admired Adam Wainwright, and then when I got into this business and got to interact with him up close, it only made me more of a fan. He is the real deal as a person. Sure, in hindsight, him walking off the mound with Albert and Yachty last year would have been the perfect capper for a career, but the reality is what it is. He has about 10 starts left to win 2 games for 200. Knowing him, he also wants to make sure the last thing we remember about his career isn't a depressing finale. With nothing else to really root for these last 2 months, that's about the only thing I'm hoping to see from these Cardinals, and I don't think I'm alone. That's our show for tonight with producer Andy Moeller. I'm Corey Miller. Have a great night, St. Louis.
And he's in there safely, and he's not real happy with Tim Anderson. Well, both benches are empty, and Anderson took a right-hand swing at Ramirez, and this is going to turn into quite a melee. Cooler heads prevail and pull the two combatants apart quickly, but Tim Anderson just took a shot. Sarbaugh is right there in his face, and here we go again.
Signing off for now, but don't forget,